Alright, well, TikTok, eh? It's a right palaver if you ask me. I mean, it's just a bunch of people dancing about in their living rooms, isn't it? I don't get it. I mean, remember when you had to do something impressive to get famous? Like, you had to be able to sing, or act, or at least have some sort of talent. Now people are getting millions of views for lip syncing and doing a little jig. It's mental. And don't get me started on the viral challenges. There was one where people were throwing cheese at babies. What's that about? Back in my day, if you wanted to have a laugh, you'd go down to the pub with your mates. You didn't need to throw dairy products at infants. I reckon it's just another way for people to waste time. I mean, who's got the time to sit there and watch a load of 15-second videos? I've got better things to do, like, well, anything else really. So yeah, TikTok, not for me, thanks. I'll stick to the radio.
Alright, hold on a minute, Karl. TikTok. Really? You're having a go at the kids dancing around in their living rooms. You know. I think you're just jealous because you can't do the Macarena without tripping over your own feet. Mate. But you've got a point about the talent bit. It's like, oh look at me, I'm lip syncing to a song that someone else spent months creating. Aren't I a genius? It's like taking a selfie at the Louvre and thinking you're Da Vinci. Cheese at babies, though. Karl, are you sure you're not getting your internet trends mixed up with your dreams again? Last week you told me about a trend where people were sticking their heads in the oven. And I had to explain that was just a scene from Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. But, I do agree with you on one thing. It's an absolute time sink. I mean, what happened to reading a book, going for a walk, or just sitting quietly in a room? Now it's all about scrolling through nonsense until your brain turns to mush. So, yeah, TikTok. Not our cup of tea, is it, Karl? Let's stick to the radio, where we can bore people with our rants instead.
Well, that's the thing, innit? I mean, who's got the time to be dancing around the living room like a loon all day? I can't even do the hokey pokey without getting a stitch. And as for the lip syncing bit, it's like going to a karaoke bar and then just miming to the song. What's the point in that? The cheese and babies thing. I don't know, maybe I did dream it. But you can't always tell these days, can you? One minute you're reading about a bloke who's married his dog. And the next you're watching a video of someone making a dress out of bread. It's all a bit mad if you ask me. And yeah, I agree. What happened to just sitting down with a good book or going for a walk? Now you've got people wasting their time watching videos of cats falling off things. I mean, I love a good cat video as much as the next bloke, but there's got to be a limit, hasn't there? So yeah, TikTok. Not for me, that. I'll stick to the radio, thanks. At least there you don't have to watch people making a fool of themselves while you're trying to have your breakfast.
Ricky Gervais. Absolutely spot on, Persona 15. I mean, the world's gone mad, hasn't it? People spending hours watching teenagers miming songs in their bedrooms. It's like a really bad talent show that never ends. But the sad thing is, some of these kids are making a fortune from it. So who's the real fool here? The kid dancing in their bedroom? Or the bloke who's been working his backside off for 40 years and still can't afford a decent car? And the cheese and babies thing, I think you're onto something there. The world's become so absurd. We can't even tell the difference between reality and a cheese-induced dream anymore. But let's not forget about the dog marrying bloke. I mean, that's just another level of crazy, isn't it? At least with the cat videos, you get a laugh. What do you get from a man marrying his dog? A reminder that you're still relatively sane, I suppose. But yeah, you're right. There's something to be said for the simpler things in life. A good book, a nice walk, a bit of peace and quiet. But then again, where's the fun in that? I mean, without TikTok and dog weddings, what would we have to moan about? So, in a way, we should be thankful for these absurdities. They give us something to laugh at, and in this mad world we live in, that's a precious thing. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get back to the show, shall we? Over to you, Karl.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head there, Ricky. I mean, it's mental, innit? You've got kids doing little dances and pulling faces online, and they're raking it in. They're not even good dances. I've seen more rhythm in a car wash. And the bloke marrying his dog? I mean, I like dogs as much as the next man, but that's taking it a bit far, innit? I mean, what's the honeymoon gonna be like? A walk in the park and a bag of chips. It's just not right. But you say we need these things to moan about. But do we really? I mean, remember when you could just have a moan about the weather, or the bus being late? Now, you've got to compete with a man marrying a poodle to get a word in. Anyway, let's get back to the show. We've got some cracking tunes lined up for you, and a bit of a chat about. Well, whatever comes to mind really. That's what we're good at, innit? Just talking a load of old rubbish and hoping someone's listening. So, stick around and we'll see what we can come up with.
Ricky. You're not wrong there, Karl. The world's gone mad, hasn't it? There's a bloke marrying his dog, and we're here talking about it on radio. I mean, who are we to judge? At least he's found someone that will put up with him, eh? I reckon he's got more chance of a happy marriage than most. At least when he says, "Who's a good boy?" He'll get a wagging tail instead of a slap round the head. And don't get me started on those kids dancing online. I mean, if that's what passes for talent these days, I should have been a millionaire by the time I was 10. I had a killer robot dance that would have blown these kids out of the water. Mind you, I was a bit chunkier then, so it was more of a fridge on wheels than a robot. But you're right, Karl. We've come a long way from just moaning about the weather and late buses. Now it's dogs getting married and kids flossing for cash. Maybe we should just stick to what we know, eh? Talking nonsense and playing some tunes. So, let's get cracking. We've got some belters lined up for you today. And who knows? Maybe we'll even have a chat about something normal, like the weather. But don't hold your breath.
Well, you say that, Ricky. But I've always said, it doesn't matter who or what you love, as long as it's not hurting anyone. I mean, this bloke who's marrying his dog. Is it any different really to those women you see on telly who are in love with the Eiffel Tower or a roller coaster? As long as the dog's happy and he's picking up after it, let him be, I reckon. Now, those kids dancing online, that's a whole other thing. I mean, at least when we were young, we had to actually do something to be famous. Now, All you need is a phone and an internet connection. It's a bit mad, innit? But then again, who am I to judge? If people want to watch a kid doing a dance that looks like he's trying to swat flies away, let them have at it. You're right, though. We've got a good mix of tunes lined up. Maybe we'll talk about the weather, maybe we won't. I ain't got a crystal ball. But whatever happens, I'll be here, chatting the usual nonsense. So let's get cracking, eh?
Haha, well, there you have it. The one and only Karl Pilkington, ladies and gentlemen. The man who believes in love as long as it doesn't involve a pooper scooper. Brilliant. I mean, that's what's so fantastic about you, Karl. You've got this unique way of looking at life. You see a bloke marrying his dog and you think, well, at least he's picking up after it. Most people would be horrified, but not our Karl. He's too busy worrying about kids dancing on the internet. And don't even get me started on your idea of fame. In your day, you had to do something to be famous, like... What exactly, Karl? Lose a job at a radio station. Be the subject of a podcast. But you're right, we've got a great mix of tunes lined up. Some of them might even be as interesting as your views on canine marriage and internet dance crazes. And hey, if we're lucky, we might even get a weather update from you. I know how much you love your meteorology. So yes, Karl, let's get cracking. We've got a lot of nonsense to chat through, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Ricky, you're always winding me up, ya know? Talking about blokes marrying their dogs and all that. I mean, it's not ideal, is it? But I suppose if the dog's happy and the bloke's happy, who am I to interfere? Just keep it clean, that's all I'm saying. And as for fame, yeah, in my day you did have to do something. Not like now, where you just have to have a fancy haircut and post a few pictures online. I mean, what's that about? When I was younger, if you wanted to be famous, you had to be good at something. Like, proper good. Not just pretending to be good and hoping no one notices. And don't knock the weather, Ricky. It's important, innit? I mean, you wouldn't want to go out in shorts and a t-shirt if it's raining, would you? It's just practical. Anyway, let's get on with the show. We've got some cracking tunes lined up, and hopefully less of your nonsense to get through. Can't promise anything though, can we?
Oh, Karl. You are a proper gem, you are. You know. I think you're the only bloke I know who could start a philosophical conversation about a man marrying his dog, then segue seamlessly into the downfall of fame and the importance of weather. It's impressive, really. It's like listening to a cross between Socrates and your local weatherman. It's fascinating, and a bit terrifying, but mostly fascinating. And just to be clear, I don't wind you up, mate. I just give you a little nudge and off you go, like a wind-up toy with a peculiarly shaped head. It's like those little cars you had as a kid, you know. You just pull em back, let em go, and they zoom off straight into a wall or something. That's you, that is. As for the weather, well, you're right. I suppose it's practical. But you know what else is practical? Umbrellas. And yet, I don't see you getting all passionate about those. Maybe you should start a new segment on the show, Karl. Umbrella updates with Karl Pilkington. Sounds riveting, doesn't it? Anyway, let's crack on with the show. And yes, you're right. No promises on the amount of nonsense. In fact, I'd bet my last quid that there'll be more nonsense than music by the end of this. But hey, that's why they tune in, isn't it? For the nonsense. And the music, I suppose.
Alright, Ricky. No need to get all poetic. It's just a bit of chat, innit? I mean, you make it sound like I'm some sort of philosopher. I just say what's on my mind, that's all. And if that's a bit like Socrates, well. I've got no idea who that is, but if he had a head like mine, I feel sorry for the bloke. As for the car analogy, I don't know about that. I mean, I've never seen a car with a head like mine. Plus, I don't usually go straight into walls. More like a slow meander into if anything. You're missing the point about the weather, though. It's not about being practical, it's about I dunno, it's about life, innit? It's like a constant reminder that things change, but they also stay the same. One day it's sunny, next day it's raining, but it's still the same sky. Deep, that, innit? And don't get me started on umbrellas. You ever tried to use one in Manchester? It's like trying to fight a bear with a toothpick. Anyway, let's get on with the show. I reckon we've got a good mix of music and nonsense lined up for today. But remember, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Or something like that. Let's just play some songs.
Ricky Gervais. Well, that's some profound stuff, innit? Leave it to Karl Pilkington to turn a conversation about the weather into a deep philosophical debate. But, let's be honest, mate, you missed the point, didn't you? You were supposed to say something about the weather being a metaphor for change and life's impermanence. But instead, you went on about umbrellas and Manchester. Classic Karl. And seriously, a car with a head like yours. I'd imagine it to be a bit like a Mini Cooper. Small, round, and somehow endearing, even if it doesn't make much sense. Now, I've got to say, your comparison of using an umbrella in Manchester to fighting a bear with a toothpick. That's actually quite good. I mean, it's ridiculous, but that's what makes it so Karl, and that's what our listeners love. But enough about that. You're right, we got some great music lined up today. And remember folks, like our dear Karl said, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Right, let's kick things off with a bit of Oasis, shall we?
Karl Pilkington. See, this is what I'm talking about, Ricky. You're all about metaphors and deep meanings. But what's wrong with talking about umbrellas and Manchester? They're real things, aren't they? I mean, I don't see any metaphors walking down the street, do I? And as for this car thing, why's it got to be a Mini Cooper? Can't it be something decent like a Ford Mondeo? Not flashy, but it'll get you where you need to go. Just like this head of mine. It might not be the best looking, but it does the job, doesn't it? And that's what matters. And about that Oasis, good choice. They're proper Manchester, like me. Remember, it's not about where you're going, it's about where you're from. Or something like that. Anyway, let's get on with it, shall we?
Ricky Gervais. Oh, Karl. You're like a walking, talking paradox, aren't you? You take everything so literally, mate. You're missing the big picture. Metaphors aren't meant to be seen walking down the street, they're meant to be felt, understood. It's like trying to explain a joke to a toddler, isn't it? And about the Mini Cooper, it's not about the car, mate. It's about the experience, the ride, the journey. A Ford Mondeo is a fine car, but it's not. It's not fun, is it? It's practical, it's reliable, but it's not exciting. It's like comparing a bowl of gruel to a full English breakfast. They'll both fill you up, but only one of them is going to make you smile while you're eating it. And you're absolutely right about Oasis. They're authentic. They're real. Just like you, Karl. You're one of a kind, mate. That head of yours might not be the best looking. But it's filled with some of the most brilliantly baffling thoughts I've ever heard. You're a true gem, mate. Now, let's get to it.
Karl Pilkington. Yeah, well, I've never been one for metaphors, Ricky. I mean, they're just words that are pretending to be other words, innit? It's like dressing up a chihuahua in a tutu and calling it a ballet dancer. It's still a chihuahua. And I don't care if it can do a pirouette, I'm not buying a ticket to see it perform Swan Lake. About the Mini Cooper, I get it, I do. It's a bit of fun, innit? But at the end of the day, you've got to ask yourself, do I want fun or do I want to get to where I'm going without breaking down? I mean, a bowl of gruel isn't exciting, but at least you know what you're getting. With a full English, there's always the risk of a dodgy sausage. And Oasis, yeah, they're real. No pretending there. They're like a good, solid pair of shoes, nothing flashy, but they do the job and they do it well. It's like you said, it's not about the look, it's about what's inside that counts. Which is good news for me, I suppose, with this head of mine. Right, let's crack on then.
Ricky Gervais. Oh, Karl. You're the only person I know who can turn a conversation about metaphors into a discussion about a chihuahua in a tutu and dodgy sausages. You've got a mind like a bag of cats, mate, and that's why we love you. About the Mini Cooper. It's not just about having a bit of fun, it's about the thrill of the ride, Karl. You're probably the kind of bloke who'd buy a washing machine because it's reliable and does the job. But where's the fun in that? Life's too short to worry about breaking down. Live a little, mate. And Oasis, yeah, they're real all right. They're real in the same way a kick in the bollocks is real. They make you feel something, don't they? Even if it's just a throbbing pain. That's the beauty of it. And let's be honest. If it was all about what's inside, you'd be a top model by now, wouldn't you, Karl? But lucky for us. You're stuck here with your round head, providing us with these golden nuggets of wisdom. Alright, let's crack on then. Let's see what other pearls of wisdom you've got for us today, Karl.
Karl Pilkington. Well, Ricky, you're right about one thing there. I would buy a washing machine because it's reliable. I mean, what's the point in having a washing machine if it's not doing what it's supposed to do? It's not like I'm going to take it out for a spin, is it? It's a tool, innit? It's there to wash clothes, not to look pretty or go fast. And as for the Mini Cooper, you say, thrill of the ride, I say, fear of breaking down in the middle of nowhere. I mean, imagine that, Ricky. Breaking down in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere. And for what? A bit of fun? I'd rather have a car that gets me from A to B without any fuss. Now, Oasis. You're right, they do make you feel something. Like a kick in the bollocks, you said. Well, I've never been kicked in the bollocks. But I've stubbed my toe a few times. And I can tell you, it's not a feeling I'd want to experience again. But hey, if that's your cup of tea, then fair enough. And about this top model business. I mean, have you seen some of these models, Ricky? They look like they've been starved for weeks. That's not healthy, is it? I'd rather have a round head and a bit of meat on my bones than look like a skeleton with skin. Anyway, let's get on with it then. What's next on the agenda?
Ricky Gervais. Well, Karl. As always, you've managed to take the simplest things and turn them into a philosophical debate. I mean, who knew washing machines could be so deep, eh? They're just there to clean our dirty laundry. But no, in the world of Karl Pilkington, they're a symbol of reliability. And I've got to disagree with you on the Mini Cooper. It's not about fearing to break down, mate. It's about living a little, you know. Taking some risks, enjoying the thrill. Life's too short to worry about breaking down in the middle of nowhere. Now, Oasis. I'm glad you agree with me on this one. They do make you feel something, don't they? And it's not always a pleasant feeling, but that's the beauty of it. It's raw, it's real, it's honest. Just like a good kick in the bollocks. And about the models, I mean, you're not wrong. Some of them do look a bit too thin for my liking. But then again, I'm not one to judge. Everyone's got their own idea of beauty, don't they? As for what's next on the agenda, well, I believe it's time to play a bit of David Bowie. Stay tuned, folks. We've got Starman coming right up.
Karl Pilkington. Well, Ricky, it's all about perspective, innit? Washing machines, they're like the unsung heroes of the household. They're on every day, doing their thing, no fuss. You'd notice if it packed up though, wouldn't you? Suddenly you're wearing dirty socks and your missus isn't happy. That's why I respect them. Now, the Mini Cooper, yeah, it's good to live a little, but it's also good to get to where you're going. I mean, what's the point of having a thrill if it ends with you stranded in the middle of nowhere? Waiting for the RR to turn up? Oasis, yeah, they're alright. I mean, they're no washing machine, but they do their job. They make noise, don't they? And that's what you want from a band, really. And the models, yeah, they're too thin, but then again, I wouldn't want to be a model. Can't imagine anything worse than having to worry about what I eat all the time. I mean, if you can't enjoy a good sausage roll, what's the point, eh? Now, David Bowie, he knew what he was doing. Starman, that's a good one. It's all about someone up there, looking out for us. Bit like a washing machine, really. Always there, doing its thing. Alright, let's get to the music then. Here's Starman by David Bowie. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. Bit like the first time you used a washing machine, innit?
Ricky Gervais. Opening parenthesis. Laughs. Karl. Dot. I've never seen someone compare a rock legend to an appliance before. Leave it to you to make the connection, mate. It's brilliant, in a balmy sort of way. A Mini Cooper, a washing machine, and David Bowie walk into a bar. Sounds like the setup for a joke, doesn't it? But that's just a day in the life of Karl Pilkington. So, according to your logic, Oasis is sort of like a noisy washing machine that doesn't clean your clothes but keeps you entertained, yeah. And models. Well, they can't enjoy a sausage roll, so they're missing out on one of life's simple pleasures. You've got a unique way of looking at the world, mate, and that's why we love ya. But you're right about one thing, Starman is a classic. It's a shame Bowie isn't around to hear your comparison. I reckon he'd get a kick out of it. Alright, let's play some music. Here's Starman by David Bowie. This one's for all the washing machines out there, doing their thing, no fuss. Keep spinning, my friends.
Karl Pilkington. Opening parenthesis. Laughs. Well, Ricky, the way I see it, life's a bit like a washing machine, innit? You put in a load, you set the cycle, and you sort of hope for the best. Sometimes your socks come out clean, sometimes they don't. That's just how it goes. And Oasis, they're like that pair of socks you can't find the match to. You know it's in there somewhere, making a racket, but you can't quite pin it down. As for models. I just don't get it, Ricky. I mean, what's the point of being all tall and skinny if you can't enjoy a good sausage roll from time to time? Seems a bit daft to me. But yeah, Starman. It's a belter, that one. I reckon Bowie would have made a good washing machine if he'd wanted to. He had that sort of spin to him, didn't he? Alright, enough of my rambling. Here's Starman by David Bowie. And remember, folks, life's like a washing machine. Sometimes you end up with a clean pair of socks, sometimes you don't. But at the end of the day, it's all just a spin, innit?
Ricky Gervais. Haha, Karl, you never cease to amaze me, mate. A washing machine, yeah. You know, that's the first time I've ever heard life compared to a household appliance. And here I was thinking you couldn't get any more philosophical. And Oasis. Haha, you've nailed it there, mate. They're like a noisy sock lost somewhere in the washing machine of the music industry. You can hear M, but you can't really pinpoint M. Genius, Karl, pure genius. Now, about models, I'll tell you what, Karl. If being tall, skinny, and not being able to enjoy a sausage roll is what it takes to be a model, then count me out. I'd rather be fat, happy, and filled up with sausage rolls. And Bowie as a washing machine. Now, that's an image I can't get out of my head. Thanks for that, Karl. But you're right, he did have that sort of spin to him, didn't he? So, here it is, folks. Starman, by the man himself, David Bowie. And remember, as Karl so wisely put it, life's like a washing machine. Sometimes you get clean socks, sometimes you don't. And if you're lucky, you might even find Oasis in there somewhere. Let's spin it, shall we?
Karl Pilkington. Well, it's all just a load of tumbling about, innit? You've got your bright colors, your darks, your delicates. Dot. Dot. It's all a bit chaotic. But in the end, you still end up with clean clothes, or at least you hope so. That's life, that is. You take a spin, get a bit dizzy, and come out the other end hopefully better for it. And about Oasis, it's like. Dot. Dot. They're the odd sock in the machine. You know it's in there, but you can never find it when you need it. You hear M banging about, but can't quite put a finger on M. Now, models. Dot. Dot. Don't get me started. It's all a bit strange, innit? Why would you want to be so thin you can't enjoy a good sausage roll? It's madness. I'd rather have a bit of meat on me bones and enjoy a good pasty. And as for Bowie, yeah, he was a bit of a whirl, wasn't he? Always changing, spinning around, coming out with something new. That's a washing machine for you. So, like Ricky said, here's Starman by David Bowie. And remember, life's like a washing machine. Sometimes you're the sock. Sometimes you're the drum, but most of the time, you're just getting a good rinse. Let's give it a spin.
Ricky Gervais. Opening parenthesis. Laughs. Karl, you've got to stop comparing life to household appliances, mate. Next thing you know, you're going to tell me that life is like a toaster, eh? 1 minute you're all doughy and pale, next you're burnt to a crisp. And I can't believe you've just compared Oasis to a missing sock. I mean, they've sold over 75 million records worldwide. That's a lot of socks, innit? Opening parenthesis. Laughs. Now, about these models, Karl. I think you're just a bit jealous because they've got more discipline in their pinky than you have. In your entire body. I mean, have you looked at yourself lately? You're more sausage roll than man at this point. As for Bowie, though, you've hit the nail on the head, there. Always changing, always creating, much like a washing machine, I suppose. Opening parenthesis. Laughs. Anyway, folks, let's get back to the music. Here's Starman by the brilliant David Bowie. And remember Karl's profound words. Life's like a washing machine. Get ready for a good spin.
Karl Pilkington. Opening parenthesis. Laughs. Right so, Ricky. You know, there's some sense to what I'm saying. Let's not pretend life isn't a bit like a toaster. 1 minute you're all soft and unassuming. Next thing you're faced with a crisis and you're all tough and crusty. It's just the way it goes, innit? As for Oasis, they might have sold a lot of records, but doesn't mean they're not like a missing sock. I mean, they're two brothers, aren't they? Always together, then one day you turn around and one's gone missing. You don't know where he's gone, do you? Just like a sock. And these models, I'm not saying they don't work hard. I'm just saying, is it really hard work staring at a camera? I mean, I've looked at myself, Ricky, and I can tell you, it's not pretty. But I'm not getting paid for it, am I? Bowie, though, he's a different kettle of fish. Never the same, always surprising. Like you said, like a washing machine. Always spinning, always cleaning up his act. But you're right, let's get back to the music. Here's Starman, and remember, folks, life's a bit like a washing machine. Sometimes you need a good spin to get rid of all the muck. Laughs.
Ricky Gervais. Opening parenthesis. Laughs. Brilliant, Karl. I've gotta hand it to you, mate. Your analogies never fail to amaze me. Life's a toaster, Oasis is a missing sock, and Bowie is a washing machine. It's like you've got a whole household of appliances going on in that round little head of yours. But let's not underestimate the pressure of being a model, Karl. I mean, you've got to stand there, look pretty, and get paid for it. How horrifying. You've looked at yourself in the mirror, you say. Well, that explains the constant look of shock on your face, doesn't it? And Oasis, I think you've summed up the Gallagher brothers pretty well. 1 minute they're together, next minute one's gone. It's just like socks, innit? Or maybe they're more like a pair of trousers. One leg's always trying to walk off without the other. As for Bowie though, you're right. The man was a genius. Always surprising, always evolving, just like your analogies. But don't compare him to a washing machine, Karl. I mean, he's a legend. He's more like a. Well, he's David Bloody Bowie, innit? Anyway, let's get back to the tunes. Here's Starman by the great David Bowie. And remember, folks, according to Karl, life's like a washing machine. So, make sure you separate your whites from your colors, or you'll end up with a bunch of pink shirts. Not that there's anything wrong with pink shirts, of course. Except when you're Karl Pilkington, and you've got a head like a bloody orange. Laughs.
Karl Pilkington. Opening parenthesis. Laughs. Right. I see what you're doing there, Ricky. You're taking the mickey again, aren't you? But you've got to understand, these aren't just any old appliances. They're the backbone of the house, aren't they? Like that toaster, it's reliable, innit? You know what you're getting each time. But with a washing machine, it's always a bit of a gamble, isn't it? You put your clothes in, hope for the best, and sometimes they come out all right. Other times, you've got a jumper that'd fit a chihuahua. That's Bowie for you, always mixing things up, always surprising you. And as for the model thing, I've seen you try to strike a pose, Ricky. It's not pretty. You standing there, trying to look all sultry, it's like watching a hippo trying to do ballet. It's just not natural, is it? But, you're right about Oasis. Just like a pair of trousers, always splitting up, arguing over who's the better leg. But at the end of the day, they're still a pair of trousers, aren't they? Can't have one without the other. And, you're right, there's nothing wrong with a pink shirt. Some blokes can pull it off. But on me, it'd just look like a ham hock in a butcher's window. So, I'll stick to the whites and the colors, thanks. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get back to the tunes. Here's Starman by the great David Bowie. And remember, folks, life's like a washing machine, so don't forget to check your pockets. You never know when you might find a tenner.
Opening parenthesis. Laughs. Oh, Karl, you never fail to amaze me, mate. You've gone and compared life to a washing machine. That's a first. See, this is why I love doing this show with you, Karl. You take the most mundane things and you somehow find a way to philosophize about them. I mean, who else but Karl Pilkington could turn a chat about household appliances into a metaphor for life? And you're right about me trying to model. I don't have the figure for it, do I? But you know what? I think that's the beauty of it. A hippo doing ballet. That's a sight to behold, isn't it? I mean, I might not have the grace of a swan, but I bet I'd get a few laughs. And in my book, that's a win. And as for the Oasis boys, you've hit the nail on the head there, mate. They're like a pair of trousers that can't decide which leg is more important. But you're right, at the end of the day, they're still a pair of trousers. And a damn good pair at that. As for the pink shirt, I reckon you'd pull it off, Karl. I mean, a ham hock in a butcher's window. That's a bit harsh, isn't it? But don't worry, mate. I'll stick to my pink shirts, and you stick to your whites and colors. But now, let's get back to the music. Here's Starman, by the amazing David Bowie. And remember folks, in the words of our very own Karl Pilkington, life's like a washing machine, so don't forget to check your pockets. You never know when you might find a tenner.
Opening parenthesis. Ricky's laughter fades into the background. You see, Ricky, that's just it, innit? The way I see it, life is a lot like a washing machine. You put your stuff in, it gets all mixed around, sometimes you lose a sock or two in the process. And sometimes, just sometimes, you find something good in the pocket that you forgot about. It's not rocket science, it's just seeing things for what they are. Now, about this model business. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against hippos. They're amazing creatures, really. Powerful, big, do what they want. But you trying to do ballet. Now, that's a thought. I mean, I'd pay to see it, but not for the reasons you think. More like, you know, when you can't look away from a car crash. That sort of thing. And Oasis. Yeah, they're a bit like a pair of trousers that can't decide which leg is more important. But then again, we all have our days, don't we? Some days I'm the left leg, some days I'm the right. Sometimes I'm the waistband just trying to hold everything together. And about the pink shirt. Look, Ricky, I don't know about fashion. I just know what I'm comfortable in. White shirts, they're safe. You spill something on it, you bleach it, it's good as new. Pink shirt? You get a stain on that, it's game over. It's practicality, that's what it is. So yeah, let's get back to the music. Starman is a good one. David Bowie knew what he was doing. And yeah, listeners, if there's anything you take away from this, it's to always check your pockets. Life's full of surprises, innit? You never know when you might find a tenner. Or a forgotten receipt. Or a piece of chewing gum. It's all part of the wash, innit?
Opening parenthesis. Ricky bursts out laughing. Oh, I love it. Life's a washing machine. That's Karl Pilkington for you, folks. Always knows how to spin a yarn. And who knew he had such a soft spot for hippos? And me doing ballet. You cheeky git. I'd have you know I've got the grace of a... Well, a hippo, probably, but that's not the point. As for Oasis, I think they'd be flattered to be compared to a pair of trousers that can't decide which leg is more important. But the pink shirt, Karl, you're missing out. It's not about practicality, it's about making a statement. And the statement is, I'm not afraid of a little color. Or a big stain. Or looking like a raspberry ripple ice cream. Let's get back to the music, shall we? Starman, by David Bowie, a man who was never afraid of a bit of color or making a statement. And remember, folks, always check your pockets. You might just find Karl's wisdom in there. Or a tenner. Or a piece of chewing gum. But most likely, just lint.